What do you do when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles in your entrepreneurial journey? Today on Life Jack, the Resilience Podcast, we welcome Peter Cimoroni, a serial entrepreneur who has not only navigated the tumultuous waters of business, but has thrived in them. Peter has successfully taken a company from ideation to international distribution, overcoming numerous challenges along the way. With a wealth of experience in strategic growth, brand development, and acquisition negotiation, he leads two companies that are making waves in their respective industries. As the host of the Blood Time and Undeniable podcast, Peter has cultivated a community of listeners eager to learn from his insights and experiences. Join us as we explore his incredible resilience story and uncover the keys to building strength in the face of adversity.
Sometimes life gives us lemons. Sometimes it gives us lemonade. Other times it gives us something entirely out of left field that makes us say, WTF. But no matter what obstacles come, there is most often a way out on the other side, and we are once again victorious. My name is Dr. Rowe, and you are listening to my podcast about resilience. Every guest shares a tragedy to triumph story to give listeners like you the inspiration to push through every single day. Listen now as my next guest shares how they were life-jacked.
Hi, Peter. Welcome. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. How are you?
Dr. Rowe, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on. And it's just going to be a pleasure being with you. I just love your energy.
Thank you so much. You know, when I reached out to you to be a guest on the show, we are LinkedIn contact for the listeners who do not know that. And I follow you and I've done research about you. And I just think you're just a phenomenal person that can really speak to resilience in the business world. Lots of people are entrepreneurs like you, like me. And, you know, and people who want to get into entrepreneurship and open a business, they really don't understand that it really does take an incredible amount of perseverance and grit.
Yes. And back at you, Dr. Rowe. I mean, I love what you're doing in the marketplace, what you're doing in your podcast. I love your post. I just love everything about that whole dynamic that's occurring. And the question and the presentation that you just put on the platform here is exactly the thing that most, particularly whether young, middle-aged, old podcasters, entrepreneurs, anybody that's starting a business needs to know and needs to hear. So I am right there with you.
Love it. Now, for the listeners who don't know about you, Peter, can you just share a little bit about yourself?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I graduated from John Carroll University, got a master's from John Carroll University in the Stone Age in 1980 and 83, and coming out of the Carter administration was a horrible economy. So there was no job. So I went back and got my master's, and finally got into marketing. And I had no idea I was going to be in marketing, but that was what was open, and you got to put food on the table. So we did it, and then before you knew it, I took to it like a fish to water and grew a marketing agency, one of the fastest in Northeast Ohio and in the Midwest. And well, we had a blast from there, and then created a CPG product called Cough Pops, cough drop on a stick, that I invented with my brother-in-law, who was OBGYN, and my sister, who was a nurse. And we took that from kitchen table ideation to international distribution. We were all 50 states, Canada, Mexico, Western Europe, and we were in every major retailer. We were on the cover of every major publication. This was in the late 90s, early 2000s, before virality was viral. But I did it the old-fashioned way. We got an article in Crane's Cleveland Business and Cleveland Plain Dealer, and I mailed out 300 of those articles with a press release. And before you knew it, we were on the cover of Chicago Tribune and Atlanta Constitution and Advertising Age and Wall Street Journal, and then we were on the TV shows, the radio show. So it was heady times, and it was just an amazing thing. But the sweat, blood, and tears, yikes, Dr. Rowe, were really daunting. And I'll tell you what, if somebody would have told that to me in 1998, I don't know if I would have done it, but I did it. and I got the scars to prove it, but they're healed, and I'm able to teach people on what not to do. So that's one of the big. I think that's one of my biggest things I could bring to a party is don't do that, because I've been there. Let me tell you how to do it better way. So, oh God,
I love it. Isn't that how it goes, though? I mean, I thought I was going to graduate from college, and I got a master's in education, even have a doctorate in education, right? And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a teacher, which I've done, be a principal, which I've done, and now I'm a district administrator. And then all of a sudden, I have this podcast thing that just came out of nowhere about resilience, right? And building basically a media company and without even thinking about it.
Yep. And you just do it, right? You just jump in. It's like, that cold pool. Don't dip your toe in. Go head first, man. Let's go,
Yeah,
and that's what an entrepreneur does. Now, but the entrepreneur also surrounds himself, right, Dr. Rowe, with really quality, loyal, smart, different people too. You want different perspectives. You want to be challenged, but at the end of the day, you got to make that decision, and that decision you got to own it.
No, absolutely. Every single guest that I have had on this show, and Peter, you were guest number 58, and I have learned something from every single person. Like seriously, every single person. I mean, all of you all have wonderful nuggets that just inspire me and push me forward every single week that I do these interviews and I post them. And it's interesting because although, people don't always, like them when I put the social media posts out there.
Yeah.
But when I have conversations with people randomly here and there, they'll say, "Oh, I really love your show. It's so great." Right. And I'm going, "Oh, well, you do know about my show. You do listen." And so it's really interesting that I learn from each one of you all, and I know I'm going to learn some nuggets from you today in this conversation for sure.
I appreciate that, and likewise back at you. So, ask away. Anything. I'm an open book. I'm here to help.
Love it. Now, in the entrepreneurial world, right? You have an idea, and like for example, your company. So, how exactly have you gone from the process of, like you said, kitchen table idea into this monster company, and what inspires you to continue and stick with it to pursue it?
Well, the most important thing is I coined this term. It's called economy of motion, and it came from my sport of wrestling. I've been a high school, college, and international wrestling coach since the late 70s. I just retired actually in 23 after 45 years. But in that sport, it's a brutal sport, and it's so taxing that I taught this way of wrestling where you have to be in the best position to get the best result with the least amount of effort, because it's so hard. The sport is so hard physically on you that you have to really use your brain. And I brought that same mentality to business. So when I created my company, my nutraceutical, and now I'm actually creating another company. I just started 2 years ago. It's in the food business. I created essentially a virtual company. I wanted no bricks and mortar. I wanted to create a company where I had great vendor partners surrounding me and performing what they do excellently, and then modularly put that together so that I could be that intellectual property. I could have the product. I could have the marketing of it, and they would be all of the productions and operations and delivery. Because why create a trucking company? Why create a logistics company? Why create a manufacturing company when it's all there for you and they're doing it great? Just hire them, vet them, hire them, and create essentially an IP company that happens to market the product that they're producing, they're distributing, and they're retailing. So we have great retailers, we have great brokers, we have great distribution companies, we have great manufacturers, we have great professional service organizations, great attorneys, great accountants, great insurance people. All those people are great at what they do, and they come together to form our company so that we can deliver a great product to the marketplace.
Wow, I love that. Now, of course, being an entrepreneur does not come without any significant challenges, and some of them can be devastating. Some can can be business ending. So what are
Yep.
some of the significant challenges that you face, during your business processes, and how did you overcome them?
Well, the worst, there's only two things that happen, I think, that really screw up a company: bad product and bad people. And so bad people can be much more destructive than bad product, because bad product can be fixed. Bad people are hard to fix. I have never done a good deal with a bad person. So at the end of the day, I want great people around me. And I've had bad people around me. Like Dr. Rowe, I have. And when you're in your youth, your 20s, your 30s, you make mistakes. You have lack of judgment. Sometimes you got to put food on the table. And you get in bed sometimes with just bad people. But you learn from that, right? And you learn never, not sometimes to do it again, never to do it and it's a sniff test. If it feels wrong in your gut, if it doesn't smell right, run. Don't walk away. Run away from those people. And then the other thing that challenges you are sometimes bad product. And I don't mean bad products by that the product, is decayed or polluted or whatever. Sometimes the product, for whatever reason, gets destroyed on the road or is been made obsolete or is made irrelevant. I mean, right now, we're in a business right now that's highly competitive, right? The podcasting business. How do we stand out? We're challenged for that, are we not? Right? Yeah, I love that. I love that you got that confidence. But at the end of the day, we have to get through the norm. So it's not that we have a bad product. It's just that maybe the competition is, yelling, screaming, doing really ridiculous things, whatever it is. But you have to figure that out. And you have to keep your eye on the ball. If you don't do that, that shiny thing is going to take you away. So those are some of the things that really, as an entrepreneur, you've got to pay strict attention to. But first and foremost, surround yourself with great people. Second, make sure your product is the best it could possibly be to the marketplace, and deliver and execute. And if you do those things, you're going to succeed. And yeah, you're going to have some failures. You're going to have to take a step back, maybe 2 steps back, take 3 steps back. But boy, you'll take 7 steps forward. And that's really what's been my career.
No, I love that when you talk about bad people, because yes, even though my product is not necessarily a monetary product, I'm not really selling anything. I'm just, kind of providing the experience for listeners to, learn and provide them insight into different ways that people build resilience. But I do have to be careful who I decide to have on my show, right? So I do go through a vetting process, because people contact me every single day wanting to be on my show, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. I've had to turn some people down because I've had to be like, either one, they don't truly have a resilient story. Like there's a fine line between someone just complaining about their life, that my life is so bad and this is what happened to me, and people who really exhibit resilience, right? That triumph over tragedy story.
Yep.
Because it's easy for anybody to complain about woe with me. But it takes a special person to say, yes, this happened to me. I was life jacked. I didn't plan for this, but this is how I got over it. And now I'm victorious on the other side. So I can say that you do have to think about the people that you are surrounded by. Also, I have different people reach out to me for collaboration opportunities. And, I really have to think them through to say, does this really align with what I'm about, right? And I like that gut feeling, like, does this align with who I am? And you do have to say no, and it's hard though. It's hard sometimes. Really elevate you and put you out there.
Sure. Well, Dr. Rowe, you only have one name, right? And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to denigrate my father and mother's name. So I have high respect for that. And also to tenacity, stick-to-itiveness, grit. It's tough sometimes. And rejections all over the place. Raising capital, oh my God, it's a slugfest today. It wasn't so bad back in the 90s. I was able to do that pretty quickly, but the rejection is out there. But in that rejection, there's the treasure. There's the nugget. Figure it out. Get better. Evolve. Enlighten yourself and become that person that is undeniable. People that cannot say no to you because you are so committed to your mission, your vision, and who you are, because your business as an entrepreneur is not a job. It is who you are. So when people say you work so much, I'm not working. This is who I am. They go, when are you going to retire? I said, when the tombstone hits me. I love what I do. You know what I mean? I love it. This is me. This is who I am. I love getting up and talking to Dr. Rowe. This is great. I mean, so at the end of the day, it's just, that's really, I think, what separates us from the rest of humanity, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And I love what you said about the tenacity a person needs. And you often speak about perseverance in overcoming setbacks. So can you share a specific instance where those traits played a crucial role in your entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. And it's just recently, I had a commitment from a major investment group, and we were ready to go with my food company. And they, at the 11th hour, decided that the something they didn't want to do. They wanted to do it someplace else. So what did I do? I said, okay, how did I miss that? What did I do how did I get blindsided by that? What didn't I ask? What didn't I vet? What didn't I discern in all those negotiations? And then I went back and I said, I need to create something more based on the current product line that people will not be able to say no to. And I did. Went back into the kitchen and I created it. I went to a manufacturer who has been in this town since 1872. The grandson and my father were dear friends. The great-grandson and I are dear friends, and we created a deal that substituted and actually evolved and improved the deal that was rejected. But it was incumbent upon me to figure it out, not to go into the fetal position, but to say, all right, I'm coming out swinging. I'm coming out with my creativity. I'm coming out with my charisma, my joie de vivre, my je ne sais quoi, a little French there, and say, let's go. Let's go. And I created a product that will change the category, and the manufacturer knew it. And he ate that product. Now, this is a guy who's been making bread since he was out of the womb, okay? And he says, this bread is the best I've ever tasted, and I can't stop eating it. Okay? Wow. Let's go. Yep.
I love it. That's it. And that's what the perseverance is, right? Like that, like you said, you can't lay down in the fetal position and feel sorry for yourself. I mean, even though you may be sad, but you don't quit. Sure. Like failure is not an option, right? It's just not. You just have to keep pushing through. As they say, if the door closes, go through the window. You're right. That's exactly it. And you just have to
dig a tunnel.
Tunnel, go over the water too. And I think that's one of the things that I'm learning as well. It's just keep going. Just failure is just not an option. You just keep going, and you have to make sure that it gets done.
There's two things I want to talk about that. There was a very famous line from Jurassic Park. Life finds a way. And life finds a way to not only evolve, but survive and then thrive. And Bruce Lee said, be like water. What does water do? right? It just finds a way, right?
Yeah.
It just finds a way. Be like water. That was his, that was his thing. And so when you talk about those two things, life finds a way and be like water. Wow. Wow. I mean, it's just, okay, I get it. And there is the most basic thing on the planet. This is who we are. We are that species. That's why we're the top of the food chain. We are that species, so I think the entrepreneur is the evolution of the top of the food chain. Just my,
true.
No, it's just my humble opinion.
No, it's great. And you're right. It's easy to be a worker, right? It's easy to wake up in the morning, get dressed, and you go to work for someone else under someone else's idea, right? Someone else's concept. Whether the system or a process, that you go there and it's easy because someone tells you what to do, and then you just do that and replicate it over and over each day you go to work. But to be the one that is the decision maker, that is the designer, the creator, it's like, you're right, like, because you are being like water, because you have to find the way and you have to give light. Because without you, with your great idea and creating your processes and your systems and your products or whatever it may be, you're not able to give people light, right? And their livelihood, because the people who come and work for you, they have to provide a living for their families. And if you don't do this right, right, then it could be disastrous for a lot of people. And you find like lots of people are depending on you, and you have to find a way. So let's talk about faith, right? I'm a religious person, and the creator is my almighty, and I attribute a lot of things to him. And I know that you also have an enormous amount of faith, and you truly believe that, believing in a creator, it does really help contribute to resilience. So what role does it play, and what does it really mean? What does that really mean to you?
Well, I'm currently reading The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, again, for probably the 10th time. And every night I lay in bed with my beautiful wife, and I read 5 pages to her. And the elegance of this prose is universal. And then I get up in the morning and I write a 20 to 25 notes of gratefulness. And at the end, always, I end with, I am thankful for my God and my faith. And when I think about that, I think about self-love. The greatest gift our Maker has given us is to love ourselves, because he loves unconditionally.
Yeah.
So if that beautiful, elegant, magnificent deity loves us like that, it is our duty and our honor to love ourselves like she, he, whatever your belief is, loves you. And then in that, Dr. Rowe, true love for others can only occur.
I believe that is the number one form of love, is self-love.
Yeah.
I mean, and it guides everything. And you are right, because the creator loves us, so we should love ourselves. And that's the greatest love that anyone should ever have. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how I do it, That's how I do it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful existence. Not without tragedy, not without pain, it's not without sorrow, but even in that, there is such beauty. There's such a nugget of learning that we have to be open to all of that. Open mind and open heart.
And speaking of love, you mentioned your beautiful wife earlier. And you had said that having a support system is incredibly important. And you've had that support system, and included in your support system has been your wife and your team.
Mm-hmm.
What role has played in your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, she is not an entrepreneur. She's a second grade teacher, and she's my hero because I can't imagine doing it. God bless her. I mean, I coach, but I coach all high school and college kids. So, we had a little different dynamic. But man, she is just an amazing person. But she's seen, what I go through as an entrepreneur, and she sees the dynamic and some of the insanity and some of the elegance and some of the ecstasy and some of the agony that I go through. And she is always there, always there. And it's just such a comfort to know that I have this warrior behind me and in front of me and to my side, that I am just, Dr. Love, incredibly blessed. Besides her outward beauty, her inward beauty and her inward strength is just remarkable, and I'm humbled and blessed to have her in my life.
And that's all amazing. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of misconceptions that people have about resilience. I mean, one, I know people just think, that you just have to be, strong and tough, and that means you're resilient.
Yeah.
But what are some that you believe are some common misconceptions about resilience that you'd like to address to the listeners?
Well, that's an interesting question, because resiliency in the actions, right? In the busyness, being an entrepreneur. But ultimately, Dr. Will, it's about results. So don't fool yourself that saying, oh, I'm being resilient because I'm being active. That's only part of it. You still have to produce, and you have to hold yourself accountable to that. So resiliency also has accountability. And like you said before, you're accountable to your people. You're accountable to yourself first and foremost. You're accountable to your people, and you're accountable to your clients, to your customers, to your vendors, to your partners, to your provider, those kinds of things. So resiliency has actions, and it has results. So don't fool yourself by just action. You have to have results.
I love that resilience has to have accountability. I never thought about that, but you're right.
Yeah.
Even if the decisions that you're making to push through, but you got to hold yourself accountable, right? Because you can't just make any old decision. It's got to be a logical decision. It's got to be something that makes sense, because you just can't do anything and think that it's going to work or get you through. And then, like you said, you got to have some type of self-reliance, to know that you're going to be able to make the right decision. And so I love that. Like, have to have a resilience, have to have accountability. And I know that that's hard for people. Accountability is one of those things that, it's really hard for people to have to own up to, I didn't quite handle that correctly, or the follow through that has to happen.
Yep. Well, that's the other thing too is, be a person of your word and tell good and bad fast. Don't hide under your desk. If you screwed up, call your client and say this, and I'm going to do whatever I can to fix it. Okay. But also too, if you knocked it out of the park, give them a call and say, hey, let's go out and celebrate, because we killed it for you. So good and bad news fast, and don't shy away from making mistakes. Just don't do it again. So those are the things that really resonate for me as a leader.
And you have two podcasts, Blood Time and Undeniable. So can you share with the listeners a little bit about each podcast in case they want to, follow you and listen to those two podcasts?
Thank you. Yes, sure, Dr. Luke. So Blood Time came from the sport of wrestling, where if you, God forbid, you get blood, you get some time out to go and clean it up and get okay so you can go back and wrestle. But Blood Time on the podcast means that transformative moment between the athlete and the coach when they become family. They become blood. And in that transformation, what does the athlete do in the real world with that transformation? It's not necessarily a sport podcast. It's about an inspiration podcast. And some of these stories, remarkable individual, stunning results, fabulous, success stories from all walks of life. And then in undeniable, it's a similar thing in business. Who is that business mentor to you? Who said that, hey, Dr. Rowe, you can do this. I believe in you. And then what did you do with that? Well, look what you're doing with it. Was there somebody that said that to you, that believed in you? Was it a professor? Was it an aunt? Was it a business boss? Who was that person? And then what you do with that transformation in the marketplace. And then they come back and teach you, and then you teach the next generation because you've just evolved. So it's that circle of life. That's the beauty of what this podcast has meant to me.
Wow. It's interesting that you said that, because the name of my podcast, Life Jack, actually came from my dissertation chair in my doctoral program, Dr. Stephanie Hartzell from Concordia University, Texas. Phenomenal woman. And
we love her. We love her.
Yes, you do. Yes.
We love her.
So many things throughout my process, and I just wanted to give up. In my doctoral program, I got divorced, and my grandmother, who was very dear to me, was almost like a mother to me. She passed away from cancer, and just trying to navigate my way as a single mom of 3 boys. And then I got laid off, and then COVID, and then my school closed, and then my actual university, because I was at Concordia, Portland, and that closed right when I was going into my dissertation phase. All these things are just happening one after the other, and I just wanted to give up, and I was like, I can't do this. And she was like, wow, you just been life jacked. And I just was like, yeah. I had never heard this before. And she was like, but we're going to get you through. And I was like, I don't know. She's like, we're going to get you through. She said, it doesn't matter how long it takes. And she said, there's no timeline, on when you finish the doctoral program. You just got to get across the finish line. And obviously, I got across the finish line. But out of that experience, this idea for this podcast was born. And I am absolutely enjoying, doing this show, providing this for listeners. So thank you so much for also, providing your platform and your show and the insight that you bring in every single interview. So how do you think with your interviews that they have influenced your own perspective on resilience and entrepreneurship?
Well, again, the beauty of this is a lot of the interviews that I've had are either individuals that I've coached or done business with, or have done business with people that have done business with them. So there's this separation that's not that big. Now there's others that I've never met before and may never meet again, right? That I've interviewed that are just remarkable people. But what they have taught me is that you have to absolutely get better. You don't have an option, because otherwise you decay. There's no stasis in life. You either are learning or you're decaying. And I don't want to be a rotten fruit, man. I want to be the shiny apple. I just want to be a shiny apple, man. I do not want to be a rotten apple, So at the end of the day, that's what they taught me, because they are doing it. I just was with 3 of my former athletes that I coached at a really cool event, the National Wrestling Coaches Hall of Fame, where our high school head coach, who coached me, was inducted after 60 years of coaching. And I was just I was just elated, because I got to see him being honored, and then being with my guy, my platoon, if you will. And to see what they have accomplished in life. One was a doctor. Another one ran an incredibly successful business and sold it, and is just this amazing person in the Orthodox Jewish community who's donating all kinds of, just building, cultural center. Just crazily good. And another one is one of the top athletic directors in the state of Ohio. He's been nominated and won 6 or 7 awards for top, athletic director in the state of Ohio. Those three guys right there. I'm like, and they were all on my podcast. And they all have been successful in all different, disciplines. I'm like thinking to myself, how fortunate am I? And I just reveled in it. It was a wonderful Sunday.
Oh, that sounds like an amazing event, and I'm glad you got to experience that for sure.
Dude, me too. It was cool.
So for the aspiring entrepreneurs out there, because I know an entrepreneur is born every single day,
right?
And they're navigating their own obstacles. So what advice could you give to them, or what advice would you like to give to them as they, build their business from ideation to distribution about resilience?
Well, resilience is not just a word. It's a lifestyle. It's a core. It's just, if it's not in you, it's going to be hard to do it. So you either have to have it in you and grow it and nurture it and respect it, or you have to find a way to be resilient. Reach out to people, read, study, research, whatever it takes to be resilient, whether it's natural or learned. Get it and respect it and grow it, because there's no way on God's green earth that you will be a successful entrepreneur unless you have that one quality.
Wow. I knew it, Peter. I knew it. This was going to be an amazing interview, and it has. Thank you, Peter, for sharing your powerful journey and insights with us today. I mean, I learned, I love it. Life finds a way. Be like water. I definitely am going to get a copy of The Prophet. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And really brilliant. Have to have accountability. I love all of that. How can people find you to connect with you or listen to your podcast?
Sure, it's on our website, palladiumedge.com. Palladium is PALLADIUM, EDGE.com. And we're on all major podcast platforms, Spotify, iHeart, you name it, Google. And if anybody wants to reach me personally, it's peter@palladiumedge.com. I'm all over LinkedIn as well. We post daily. And and of course, on the Dr. Rowe Show. Right?
Yes.
I love it. Absolutely. With Dr. Rowe, you've been an absolute delight, and I'm honored to have spent this time with you.
No, this was just a wonderful conversation. Any last words of encouragement for the listeners?
Yes. As I said earlier, love yourself. Please love yourself.
You heard it there, folks, from Peter. Love yourself. Thank you again for joining me on Life Jack, the Resilience Podcast. Peter, I wish you and your family nothing but blessings and abundance. Please take care.
You too. Thank you, Dr. Rowe. Love to you and your entire audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, a heartfelt thank you to Peter Cimoroni for sharing his inspiring journey and invaluable insights on resilience. Remember, whether you're facing personal or professional challenges, embracing perseverance, faith, and a strong support system can help you overcome any obstacle. Don't forget to tune in next week for more stories and strategies that can empower you to thrive in life's toughest moments. Until then, stay resilient. Dr. Rowe signing off.
You have just listened to Life Jacked, the Resilience Podcast with your host, Dr. Rowe. Subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, and any other podcast streaming platform. Remember to live, love, laugh, learn, and then repeat. See you in the next episode.